Hi and welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to be talking about why having a CIC, if you are neurodivergent, could be amazing for you. It could be the solution to all your career problems. I am neurodivergent myself. I have an extreme version of dyslexia and I have ADHD. And for me, I've struggled throughout my education and my career, and having a CIC has been an absolute blessing. So I'm going to tell you about all of that in this video. But before I do that, please hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything to do with CICs and grant funding, and jump over to my website if you want to start a CIC. And I've got a course over there called How to Start a CIC and Get Funded in 4 months, and a membership as well, which if you like these videos, you're going to love the membership because I have a whole range of masterclasses available over there as well. So let me tell you my story. So it became quite apparent at a young age that I was struggling with learning to read and write. My spelling was terrible, but I was also very creative. So it was fairly obvious that I had dyslexia. However, growing up in the 80s and 90s school system meant that it was never picked up because there were unfortunately a lot of myths around at the time. I remember my teacher saying things like, "You're too intelligent to have dyslexia," or "Most people who are dyslexic are boys, not girls." So there were these sorts of misconceptions around at the time. So it was never picked up, and I really struggled. I loved a lot of my subjects, my academic subjects, so you couldn't say I wasn't academic, but I, just so struggled. My spelling was horrendous. I took a really long time to learn to read. I really struggled, but I was so determined to stay in education because I did enjoy it. So I did go on to university, and I've done well in life. In fact, in the end, I ended up with 3 degrees. So I've got 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree. I've definitely still done well in life academically. But but at every point, it's certainly something that's always embarrassed me, and it's always been something that I've had to manage. I eventually found out I had dyslexia when I did my master's degree. So I was about 24, and it was such a relief to actually get that diagnosis, to actually find out that. And it turns out I had a rare form of dyslexia that only 5% of dyslexic people have. And they said that the difference between my literacy level and my intelligence level was extreme. So for all dyslexic people, there's a big gap. But for me, it was really extreme. So the good news was I was really intelligent, but the bad news is my literacy levels is where I struggle. So even now, reading certain texts and stuff like that, I struggle to read. I do read books, but it has to be certain types of text and topics and size fonts and all these things. I just find it really hard, and still my spelling is pretty atrocious. Even my written work is pretty unreadable. So, but there you go. And I'm sure if you've read my blog, you'll notice some mistakes, but I, don't let it hold me back. I just get out there and I just carry on. And I'll tell you about how the CICs help that in a moment. So the other thing I have only recently found out when I'm 41 now, is that it looks like I have ADHD. Now this also makes complete sense, and I don't know why it wasn't picked up before. But it seems to be underdiagnosed in women, so a lot of women are only now getting diagnosed with it. So I definitely have ADHD. In fact, like I said, it's pretty obvious when I think about it. I'm a very creative person. I have a small attention span. I constantly feel really passionate and laser focus on something, and then I completely lose interest and want to do something else. So as an artist, I'm constantly changing art form. I'm constantly buying new things for my art, and then I lose interest in it, and it's exhausting. It really is. But it's also meant that I'm quite gifted in terms of creativity, and that passion, that laser focus stuff, that has come in handy. That has been, a real talent of mine when I wield it in the right direction. So in a paid job, I really struggled because it's the same thing every day. So when I was a probation officer, or back when I used to work in admin and stuff like that, I used to balls up terribly because I got bored, I was uninterested. And then my dyslexia obviously kicks in as well. I was just a very difficult person to employ, in that sense that I would just lose interest, and I wouldn't be interested in targets and stuff like that. And again, my written work suffered. So So, you know, for me, being structured, being managed, being pigeonholed in, just doing the same thing, obviously being managed by people as well, having that sort of structure over you, rules, none of these things are very suitable to somebody with ADHD who just wants to just kind of do what they want and have that freedom to be able to, because our motivation just goes up and down. Like sometimes I could be completely unmotivated and, you know, to the point where you need a nap. And then other times, you know, I'm again, like I said, laser focused, hyper focused. And then I'm really passionate about something and people are like, whoa, you know. And so, you know, it's very extreme. So how has having a CIC helped this? So I think that if you are neurodivergent, you have things that you need to manage and that you struggle with, and you have incredible gifts. The gifts, the creativity, the ideas, oh my God, like that side of thing, my brain doesn't shut off very much. I'm just constantly keep coming up with ideas. So for me, having a CIC and being able to create my own job, design my own job, my own projects. So what I do is I do short projects. I do like 6 months at a time kind of projects. I don't do the long ones. And I don't have, see, some CICs, they just do the same thing all the time. I don't do that. I literally change all the time, quite drastically, to the point where I'll do a heritage lottery application, write a history book, and then I'll do an arts council project and do some street art painting, or I'll do some rehabilitation work in prisons, or I'll want to do something in the environment. So I am quite extreme with it. So my CIC projects are, you know, really different. And because of that, you could literally describe me in a bunch of words professionally. I mean, technically, I'm a qualified photographer. I'm experienced now all kinds of things like project management, obviously, you know, grant fund writing, and then artist-wise, I mean, I do all kinds of art. I do street art, I do lino cut, I do ceramics now, so all kinds of things. And I think that for me, it is just an absolute dream to be able to just come up with these projects every year. What am I going to do this year? Oh, I know, I'll look into that. And then you research it and you get excited about it, do my application, get my project, got a good 6 months to thrash that out, and then I can move on to something else. So it is just an absolute dream. So I highly recommend it if you are neurodivergent. So let's talk about, obviously, of course, that's the pluses. Let's talk about things I struggle with, which are still apparent in a CIC. You can't make admin go away. It's just the way the world works. You have to have some kind of admin. I mean, it's just the way it is. So I've still got to do my taxes, still got to mess around with invoices, but I try to streamline things as simple as possible, as fewer payments as possible, as fewer bits of paperwork as possible. So I very much design projects that don't have a lot of paperwork. And, you know, I really streamline what I've got to do. I also outsource. So for instance, my accounts, I have an accountant who does all my payroll. I don't want to mess around doing PAYE. I get her to do that, and I'd rather just pay her to do that, and it's just easier. So because I'm earning more, I'm able to outsource things. So yeah, you can always outsource bits and pieces that you don't want to do. So you could hire someone to do your admin and paperwork if you don't want to do it. And also your bid writing. I appreciate that although I like bid writing, a lot of people with dyslexia and things who may not be as used to it will probably find it quite overwhelming and not want to do it. So in that case, you could get a bid writer. I generally just be careful about bid writers because, you know, sometimes they take a lot of money and they don't know your project. So I'd just be careful on that. What I would recommend is you actually do write it yourself, and then you book someone like myself to actually do the checking of the bid. So you know that you've got somebody to go in there and deal with it. And luckily for bid writing, spelling and stuff like that doesn't matter so much. So don't feel too intimidated about, you know, grammar and all that. That doesn't really matter with applications. They don't look down on that. So I've never had an issue or anyone say anything about it. So, you know, do just try to write your own forms, and if you can't, outsource the problem and try to get someone else to help you with it. So I hope that's given those of you who are neurodivergent a little bit of inspiration. Like I said, I couldn't rate it enough. Being your own boss is just the best thing in the world. Being able to take time off when you want, being able to just go with the flow of your motivation and be able to be a creative octopus and do all these different things. So I couldn't recommend it enough, and I hope this inspires you to get off the 9 to 5 and to look into starting a CIC.